The desert wasn't quiet. It was charged like air before a storm, waiting for something to break. A crowd of Marines leaned forward, boots scraping against the gravel. Phones hovered in their hands, rifles forgotten at their sides, all of them focused on a single old man. Edward Walker, 84, thin but unshaken, with pale blue eyes that saw farther than theirs ever could. He laid down a rifle painted the wrong color, burnt red, scarred, strange against the sea of black weapons. It looked ridiculous. Yet in his hands, it seemed sharper than steel. A corporal shifted uncomfortably, forcing a grin he didn't feel. Around him, recruits whispered, jabbed elbows, some eager, others uneasy. The air tightened with every second, as if the ground itself expected an explosion. And it all began under a ruthless Sunday. The Nevada desert glared white under noon light. Air wavered above the range, steel plates flickering like ghosts at the far horizon. Lines of Marines stood ready, rifles cradled, scopes adjusted. They were young, carved by training, their voices loud and careless. Shouts, whistles, a few jokes tossed across the line. Confidence filled the air like static. Then something shifted. A single man stepped onto the range. Slow, steady, deliberate. Edward Walker. His body lean, his back straight. Short white hair, deep wrinkles like carved stone. Pale blue eyes unwavering. He set down a rifle unlike theirs. Its paint was a dull, weathered red. The weapon stood out, odd against the polished black of Marine gear. Murmurs rippled instantly. Some Marines chuckled, others traded looks. One pointed, shaking his head, while another raised his phone higher. "Looks like scrap metal," a private muttered. "Maybe it's for bird hunting." The group reacted with snorts, nudges, and eye rolls. Walker ignored them. He produced a cloth from his pocket, wiped the scope with slow precision, every motion careful, as if rehearsed 1,000 times. Corporal Ryan Carter stepped forward. Tall, muscular, buzz-cut dark hair, his jaw tight as he tried to mask irritation with a half-smile. He stopped just a step too close. "This is a live-fire exercise," Carter said, his tone clipped. His eyes scanned Walker's plain suit, then the odd rifle. "You don't belong here." Walker raised his head, calm and steady. He didn't argue. He didn't even frown. From his jacket, he pulled a worn leather wallet. Inside, a laminated access card, edges worn but seal intact. He held it up in silence. Carter snatched it, turning it over. Jaw working, eyes narrowing as he searched for flaws. There were none. Behind him, the Marines grew restless. Their laughter faltered into mutters. Some frowned, uncertain now. Carter returned the card, his face set hard. "You're cleared," he admitted. "But this is still no place for you." Walker slid the card away, expression unchanged. He turned back to the bench, hands steady as he aligned the rifle. His eyes fixed on the horizon, ignoring the whispers. A Marine gave a low whistle. "Target's out past 3 clicks. He'll never even spot it." Another elbowed his buddy, whispering too loudly, "Wait till he misses." The crowd shifted closer. Some smirked, some shook heads. Others recorded with eager hands. The mood hovered between mockery and curiosity. Walker stayed still. He checked the bolt, adjusted the bipod legs into the dust. His breath was slow, his hands precise. Carter lingered at his side, not smiling now. His jaw worked as his fingers drummed against his thigh. "You think that relic can even reach?" He gestured toward the far steel plate. His words carried, sharp enough for all to hear. Walker didn't answer. He slid a brass round from his pouch, set it gently on the bench. The sound of metal on wood was soft but final. The Marine stirred again. One whistled mockingly. Another muttered, "He's really gonna try." But the laughter didn't come. Not fully. Instead, unease crept in. A private lowered his phone, suddenly aware his hand was trembling. Another glanced at Carter, waiting for the corporal to control the moment. But Carter's eyes betrayed doubt. Walker leaned into the rifle. His cheek rested against the scarred stock, pale blue eye aligned through glass. His frame and weapon became one line, drawn tight across the desert. The range went restless again. Boots shifted, shoulders pressed, whispers darted. But no one dared laugh outright now. Carter exhaled sharply, more hiss than laugh. He folded his arms, forcing a stance of command. But the confidence in his jaw had cracked. The horizon shimmered, plates barely visible. Mirage shapes bent in the glare. Steel glinted, taunting distance. Walker remained unmoved. Not rigid, but balanced. Like stone set deep in the ground, immune to wind or words. The crowd of Marines, so loud moments ago, now stood divided. Some whispered, some frowned, others shifted nervously. The spectacle had changed, no longer mockery, but expectation. And through it all, the old man's eyes never left the target. Not once, not even when Carter clenched his fists beside him. Edward Walker's pale blue eyes stayed on the horizon. The rifle lay steady before him, paint faded red like dried clay. The Marines crowded closer, no longer just amused. A few whispered under their breath. One shook his head, muttering about wasted time. Another raised a phone higher, eager to capture the moment. Walker didn't move. The desert heat shimmer bent the horizon into distorted shapes. Through his scope, the target flickered like a mirage. Memory bled in. Not the desert, the jungle. He was younger, mid-40s, face streaked with mud, rain hammering leaves overhead. That same rifle, painted red so helicopters could find him in the storm. Rotors thundered above, a searchlight cutting through darkness. He'd fired then too, holding off shadows while his team scrambled to escape. Every shot a heartbeat, every breath measured against death. The vision snapped away. Walker blinked, finding the Nevada sun again, but the echo of rain lingered in his eyes. A Marine noticed his stillness. "Look at him," the private whispered, "like he's somewhere else." His buddy shrugged, half uneasy, half intrigued. Phones recorded, hands trembling not from laughter now but from tension. The air pressed tight over the crowd. Corporal Ryan Carter planted his boots firm. His arms crossed, then dropped to his sides, restless. His jaw worked as though chewing down unease. He leaned closer, voice sharp. "You planning to shoot? Or just pose for us?" He jabbed a finger toward the distant plate. Walker's face remained calm. He adjusted the bipod leg by half an inch. Then his hand hovered over a single round. The brass glinted in the light. He picked it up slowly, placed it into the chamber. The click rang louder than the jeers. A ripple passed through the crowd. Some fell silent. Others shuffled, their earlier bravado thinning. Carter forced a grin, but his eyes darted nervously. He rested his hand on his hip, thumb hooked in his belt. "Sure, go on," he said, tone brittle. "Let's see this miracle." And the sable some after. Won the never friend of the SOS. And in the Tepton the Wat break. Behind him, a Marine whispered, "He hasn't even flinched once." Another frowned, arms folded, unsure whether to laugh or wait. Their mocking edge had dulled into uncertainty. Walker leaned down, cheek to stock, body aligning with rifle. His breathing slowed, shoulders rising and falling in rhythm. The rifle seemed less an object now, more an extension of him. Staff Sergeant Marcus Hale stepped closer from the tower. Broad shoulders, green eyes narrowed. He carried a small roster sheet in his hand. His gaze stopped on one line of text. Edward Walker. Recognition hit like a spark. He remembered the whispers files scrubbed, stories told in fragments. A sniper who'd once fired at impossible distance. A man who vanished from records but not from memory. Hale looked up sharply. The old man on the bench matched every detail. His stomach tightened. Breath caught. He slipped his phone from his pocket. Typed fast, coded words. Walker confirmed. "Possible ghost. Situation escalating." While he worked, the scene at the bench grew heavier. Carter's bravado slipped further. He tried tapping the butt of his rifle, as if to ground himself. Walker remained unmoved. His eye pressed to the scope, finger resting gently against the guard. Not pulling, waiting. The Marines shifted uneasily. One cleared his throat too loud, then fell quiet. Another lowered his phone, staring instead with wide eyes. Whispers spread like static. "Maybe he's the real deal. No way, he's too old." Yet none of them stepped forward to stop him. Not even Carter. The weight of Walker's stillness pressed harder than rank. Hale watched from a few feet away now. His green eyes burned with recognition and dread. He could feel history repeating itself in front of him. Walker breathed once. Slow. The sound carried, sharper than the breeze. Marines unconsciously mirrored him, holding their own breath. Carter finally broke the tension. He barked, forcing a laugh that never reached his eyes. "Better not break the plate, old man, it costs more than your car. Thanks for watching." No one joined him. Even his own squad avoided looking. The words fell flat, echoing into nothing. Walker adjusted the scope one last time. Knob turned, rifle aligned, body fused to weapon. He exhaled, slow as stone weathering wind. Hale typed again, sending his final warning. "Shot imminent. Get higher command now." His hands trembled, though his voice stayed firm. The Marines watched, frozen between disbelief and awe. The corporal clenched his jaw, arms hanging loose now. He had no more words left. The desert glared bright on steel far away. Not shimmer this time, just hard light reflecting. A clean target waiting. Walker's pale blue eye stayed locked through the glass, finger curled gently. The desert seemed to lean in, listening. The range had changed. It wasn't loud anymore. It pulsed like a held breath, stretched too long. Edward Walker adjusted his scope. The faint click of the dial carried sharper than voices. Every Marine heard it. His hand lingered, steady, veined but unshaking. The rifle sat fused to him, red paint dull against the desert glare. His pale blue eyes stayed fixed on the glass. Corporal Ryan Carter hovered close. His crooked smile had vanished. Now he shifted weight from foot to foot, restless. He tapped the magazine of his own rifle. The hollow sound betrayed nerves. Then he spoke, forcing sarcasm. "You've been lining up for 5 minutes." His tone aimed at the crowd, not Walker. "Any slower, and the sun will burn through your suit." But the words dropped flat. No laughter followed. Just fidgeting boots, lowered eyes, and tight jaws. A Marine coughed into his sleeve. Another muttered something too soft to catch. Phones still hovered, but arms trembled. One recruit licked his lips, whispering, "He's done this before." His buddy shook his head, but the doubt was shaky. Belief crept in like a shadow. Walker moved again. His cheek pressed to the scarred stock. His body aligned, every bone falling into place. He inhaled slow, then let it out. The sound carried further than Carter's bravado. Even the breeze seemed to pause with him. Staff Sergeant Marcus Hale edged closer. His boots left hard prints in the sand. He carried the roster sheet crumpled in one hand. The name was clear. Edward Walker. It matched a ghost from old files. Hale had heard it whispered in mess halls, in after-action notes, scrubbed of details, in the mouths of men who didn't exaggerate. A sniper who had pulled the impossible. One round at a distance no one believed. Reports buried, medals absent, but stories survived. And here he was. Not on paper, but alive. Calm. Focused. Hale's chest tightened at the realization. He thumbed a coded message on his phone. Walker confirmed. "Ghost present. Shot imminent." His pulse drummed as he sent it. Carter caught the motion. "You're really going to let him play this out?" The edge in his voice cracked. Hale's stare was hard. "Step back, Corporal." The command was final. Carter's jaw clenched. He tried to laugh, but it came out brittle. "You're all buying into a story." But even his own men looked away. None echoed him. The authority he leaned on had slipped. Behind them, the Marines shuffled. One adjusted his sling nervously. Another chewed his lip, eyes fixed on Walker. Phones dipped lower. Some still recorded, but half-hearted. Their faces showed more unease than mockery now. Walker's hand touched the trigger guard. Not a squeeze, just a resting brush. A promise, not yet delivered. He lifted his head slightly, scanning the flags at the edge of the range. Wind tugged fabric, a faint signal of direction. He made another tiny correction on the dial. The adjustment was so subtle, yet everyone saw it. Each click rang louder than gunfire in their heads. It was mastery in miniature. Hale crouched at his side. He studied the old man's face, deep lines, eyes like steel. No tremor, no doubt. "I don't know why you're here," Hale murmured, "but I think I understand who you are." His words were more to himself than Walker. Walker didn't turn. "It's not for them," he said softly. The sentence landed like a weight. Hale froze, breath caught. That voice, calm, almost tired, carried more history than any briefing. He felt he was in the presence of something sacred. The Marines behind shuffled again. Some leaned forward unconsciously, drawn in. Their arrogance had burned away, replaced by raw anticipation. Carter broke the spell with a snap. He pointed at the target far beyond. "You won't even scratch it." But his tone betrayed him. The sneer was forced. His eyes darted nervously toward the others. No one backed him up. One Marine lowered his phone completely. Another muttered, "Watch. Just watch." Walker's breathing settled into rhythm. In through the nose, out slow through the mouth. It was almost meditative. The rifle gleamed faintly under Sunday. Not relic, not joke. A scar made into steel. Carter swallowed, throat working. He shifted his stance again, boots digging into gravel. His authority was collapsing in silence. The desert horizon shimmered with mirage. Steel targets glared, hard edges flickering. Distance mocked every eye except Walker's. He leaned in deeper. his pale blue eye aligned perfectly, finger curved, patient, against the trigger. Hale stepped back, heart racing. He typed again. "Higher command, get here now." But he couldn't look away from Walker. The Marines had stopped whispering. They just stared, breaths shallow, shoulders tense. Phones hung useless in their hands. Every soldier there felt it. They were no longer watching a frail veteran. They were witnessing legend in motion. Carter finally looked away. He stared at the horizon instead, jaw clenched. The fight had drained from his eyes. His men noticed. And that defeat spread through them faster than words. None of them dared mock anymore. Walker exhaled once more. Slow, steady, final. Every chest on the line mirrored him instinctively. For a moment, he commanded their breath. The old man and the red rifle had claimed the range. Not by firing, but by presence alone. And as the last click of his scope echoed, everyone there understood what was about to happen. History was aligning its sights. The trigger broke. One sharp crack tore across the desert. Sound rolled for miles, chasing itself through empty air. The rifle recoiled. Edward Walker didn't flinch. His thin frame absorbed it like stone against waves. A brass casing spun free. It caught the sunlight, flashing gold, before clattering onto the bench. That single note hung heavier than the shot itself. Far away, the steel plate shivered. Then it collapsed, ripped from its stand. Dust curled upward where it landed. Every Marine froze. Phones dipped, eyes wide, jaws slack. The impossible had just happened before them. Carter's mouth opened, but no words came. He gripped his rifle hard, knuckles whitening. The bravado that had carried him all morning evaporated. Walker lifted his head slowly. He pulled back the bolt, ejecting nothing but calm. Then, he rose from the bench. The old man slung the burnt red rifle over his shoulder. His posture was upright, steady, unhurried. His pale blue eyes gave no victory, only certainty. The crowd shifted awkwardly. One Marine lowered his phone, embarrassed by his own recording. Another rubbed the back of his neck, trying to process what he'd seen. Carter swallowed hard, his lips pressed tight, his pride collapsing in front of his men. For the first time, he couldn't meet their eyes. Staff Sergeant Hale exhaled slowly. He had seen the truth, not rumor. The ghost was real, standing in flesh before them. Boots crunched at the edge of the range. Engines idled, then cut. A convoy had arrived. A black sedan door swung open. Brigadier General Collins stepped out, uniform sharp, ribbons gleaming. His presence drew every Marine to rigid attention. Collins didn't glance at the formation. His eyes found Walker immediately. He walked straight across the dust toward him. The old man didn't salute. He simply stood, rifle slung, gaze steady. The desert seemed to clear a path between them. Collins halted in front of him. For a moment, neither moved. The air pressed thick, every Marine watching. Then, the general inclined his head, small, precise. Not command, respect. Gasps rippled softly through the ranks. Even Carter stiffened, realizing what it meant. This wasn't just tolerance. This was recognition. Walker nodded faintly in return. He bent, picked up the spent casing from the bench. The shell disappeared into his pocket, a souvenir of proof. Without a word, he turned. His boots crunched softly as he walked away from the line. The Marines parted, instinctively giving him space. Their eyes followed, some wide, some lowered in shame. No one jeered now. No one dared. Even phones stayed down. Carter's fists trembled at his sides. He wanted to shout, to reclaim his place, but nothing would come. His arrogance lay shattered. Hale stood tall, jaw set. He met Collins's eyes for a brief second. The general's expression said everything. Keep this moment guarded. Collins turned to the Marines. Training is over, he said flatly. His voice brooked no argument. Engines roared as vehicles reversed. Dust swirled lazily in the wake. The sound felt small compared to what had just happened. The broken steel plate lay in the distance, scarred and fallen. A monument in metal to a shot no one could deny. It would be talked about for years, but never fully explained. Walker's figure grew smaller against the horizon. White hair catching sunlight, rifle slung easy. He looked less like a man leaving than a shadow returning home. And for those who had seen it, one truth burned permanent. They hadn't watched an old veteran stumble through bravado. They had witnessed a legend breathe again.